about your resume, what do you think is the most important thing for people to see? Or what do you think of, when you think of a resume, what do you think its purpose is? I think it's a better question.
Background.
Background about you, right? Yeah, background information about you, and it shows them if you are or are not qualified for the job that you're, trying to get, right? So you need to remember that when you're trying to obtain employment, and I told you we live in times where, guess what? You better be on it when it comes to making that resume as perfect as possible and making it easy for the person to rule you out or rule you in right away. So, a couple things. I always think it's so important. First of all, the first thing that they look at is what? Name. I'm going to write really hard, okay? Name. Oh my God, I should have brought a different one. Let me use my new shirt. Sorry, it's wet. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh God. Okay, whatever. I don't know, my marker doesn't work. All right, so, oh, great. I'm going to back up now. So name, right? And what should your name look like? It shouldn't be in those like funky fonts, right? It's got to be in a nice font that is easy to read and large. Okay, and what I mean by large font is I like to see bold. I don't think there's any problem with bold, do you? Okay. I also think capitalization is important. Okay. I also want, again, an easy font on the eyes, so nothing crazy. No color, okay, but bold is fine. Underneath it, what do you put next? You tell me.
Phone number?
Street address first, and then the phone number. Now, do you remember your skills back in high school? Remember when they told you how to do a letterhead? So you do your, your street address proper, you do your, city, state, zip. That's how they may mail you information, okay? And then you want to make sure that your phone number, now this is what, you guys need to write this down, make sure you put all your phone numbers. So for those of us, like myself, I have a number of different ways to contact me by phone, a number of phone numbers. So if you have multiple ones, you put all of them down. I'm going to ask that when you're sending out your resumes, that you make sure that your voicemail is professional. So if you have, and I think I may have said this last week to you, so if you have kids that are on the voicemail, change that, okay? So make sure that you change your voicemail to be reflective of you trying to get the job.
Should you list them like capital C for cell phone, H for home phone?
Yeah.
List them?
Yeah. I don't know why this isn't working. I think this isn't a whiteboard or something. Maybe I'm writing on something I shouldn't be writing on. Yeah. See, this is like a whiteboard. This is a dry erase. Low odor. Apparently I won't get high from it. I don't. Low odor. They should have put some odor in it. Maybe I'd be able to write with a darn thing. It's a brand new thing. So yeah, so you put it like an H in parentheses and a C in parentheses, and you want to make sure that all of them are on there. So that should be, everyone's different. I don't care if you put it to the left. I don't care, like left aligned in the left-hand margin. I don't care if you put it in the center of the page. That to me doesn't matter, and that's usually one of the questions that my students ask is where should I put that in it. I don't think that really matters. Either left aligned, meaning on the left side of the page, or center. The next thing that you need to have on there is what?
Email?
Email, very important. So if you have an email like hotchick69@yahoo.com, you may want to think about changing your email address, okay? I can already tell when I look at some emails that I'm like, oh, I got one on my hands here. And yeah, why? Do you have a good one?
Your deli girl.
Oh, yeah, it's all right, though. That's not bad. But that's telling them that you're a deli girl.
I've been there for 15 years.
Right, exactly. Here's my feeling. Well, I mean, again, it's my feeling, okay?
Yeah.
It's a reflection of you. So I always use just my name in mine or back when I was just transcribing, and that was my transcribing business, was my main focus of my existence, is it was Amy Types, you know, and it was very simple. So I guess the thing that's important for you to know is that it is a reflection of you. They're likely to email you, so be very careful. Again, Hot Chick 69 is probably not a good option, okay? The other thing that I would tell you is the next section is up for debate. If you go to your local career center, they're going to tell you objective, you know, I would like to work for a growing company, you know, that I can be successful with for the next, you know, whatever, the rest of my life. I like the objective statement, but I like it this way. I think you should have a statement in there that says the types of jobs that you're looking for. If you're somebody who's open to the gamut, then you may want to just say something short and sweet of, you know, I'll give you, for instance, my pharmacy technician students, they usually just write looking for a pharmacy technician position. That's really all they qualify for. That's what they want to do. But it leaves open a lot of different jobs within the place. So, you know, you may want to use it as an opportunity to say, I'm willing to do whatever I can to get into your company in obviously professional terms. I'm not going to tell you exactly the verbiage you should use. If you prefer, you can just put what you're trying to obtain for a job in your cover letter. Right? So it doesn't have to be in an objective statement. And that's kind of the premise behind why the career centers are saying take that objective statement out. Okay, it's, you know, what are you trying to obtain? I just don't want what they call a kiss rear end, quote unquote, with, you know, statement. I mean, we don't want to hear that. When I see that, I'm like, I know you're fluffing it here. You know, tell me what you want. What do you want for a job here? I've had people send me resumes all the time, and I'm like, well, what are you applying for? Are you applying for front office? Are you applying for, you know, a transcription job? Are you applying for a teaching position? What are you trying to get out of here? Okay. The other thing that I would tell you is, so you're going to decide whether you're going to put it in there or put that in your cover letter. What you're trying to obtain for a job. Now, for those of you who are doing billing and coding, here's the thing. I want you guys to be a little bit more open in the options. So you need to do your research when you go out and start looking, before you start really getting this together. Look at all the different types of jobs that are open in administrative positions in a hospital or medical office. So you want to use those phrases in there. Medical office specialist 1, medical office specialist 2. That's your front office people. Okay? You've got, so that's my CMAAs, my medical office specialist people, okay? Which is why we label it that. You want to say for billing and coding people, you want to open the door for billing, for claims, for coding. You want to open the door for front office. You want to get your foot in the door. I just spoke with a lady today, or not today, pardon me, it was yesterday. She called me, she just lost, they just downsized at her place too, they just got rid of a bunch of people, and her daughter had gone through my medical professional program and is very successful at a hospital in her town and loving it. And she, you know, she told me, she said, my daughter got in as a temp position. She went to work for a temp agency. I hate using the word temp because, you know, I told you this last week, employment agencies, they're valuable. That's what she did. They hired after a 10-week commitment, and they hired her on rate, and she's in coding. She was in coding within, I guess it was within 10 weeks. She was in the coding position. Didn't start out that way. Started out in medical front office at a major hospital. So, you know, you need, what I'm trying to point out to you is don't close the doors on things. I've had several people put like transcription positions. They'll be like at-home transcription. You know, that's all they want, and that's what their objective says, or their letterhead says. Well, the problem now is well, say their resume goes out, but this was a great job, great opportunity. They were going to send people home at some point, or they've been thinking about it, and they wouldn't look at you now because all you want is at home. But if you would have done 6 months there, you could have been working at home. But you limited it, so they didn't look at you. So I just want to make sure you don't cut yourself off before you get an opportunity to sit in front of them and talk to them and get them to want you. Okay. So the next thing that you all have to decide, or there's some headers that you probably want to write down, and I'll let you guys figure out what you put first, because it's going to be different for all of you. So the major headers are this: skills or qualifications. Okay? So skills or qualifications. The next one would be, employment history, education, references. Those are really the major headers. References. Now, I don't want to see with references, it's always at the bottom, you guys know that, right? I do not want to see you write upon request. Because here's the deal. If you provide them right at the get-go, they should be professional references. A lot of people use myself. They'll use their other instructor for the other part. You know, like Doreen or whoever the other instructor may be, they'll use them as a reference, which is smart because why we're in the medical field and we can give them a real idea of what qualifications you have and also kind of a person you are. So here's the reason I say put them on there. So you send in your resume. A week later you get a call. They want to set up an interview. So a week later you go in for an interview. They like you. They say, well, we like you. We're going to call you back for our second interview. So you know it's a week later. You come back for our second interview. Now it's been 3 weeks or more. And then they say, oh, we want to hire you. We need to get some references. So now you need to go. Now you need to go back with the references. Whereas if they've had them all along, they could be doing that in between all this running around here. It's like one less step that they have to do. You know, they have to wait for one more piece of information that they have to wait for from you. And you can be letting your references know that you're applying at these certain positions because you really should let your references know of where you're applying. So they're aware that that call may be coming in. That always helps me when I know that's happening because what I do is I pull that student from my database and I make sure I get some information on them, i.e. when did they graduate, where did they go to school, did they do it online, did they, you know, that kind of, I start pulling out some of their information so that I can sound a lot more intelligent when they call for the reference, I can give it like that. Okay, so that's something you want to consider. Okay, so that's at the end. Don't you like how I read books that way too? I go to the back and forward. But so that's the bottom of your resume. The first thing I talked about was skills. So if you're a person who has no medical background, you've never done anything administrative before, then I would probably start out with my skills section. And what you want to be thinking of are skills that you acquired while you went to school, okay? Or skills in your life that you've used that are similar to the skills that you will need when you get a job in that field. So here's what you want to think as you're going through the next section of your class if you haven't been going through all the way through. What are you learning? Like, for instance, if you're a coder, you're going to be listing the books that you're familiar with, ICD-9, HCPCS, CPT, that, you know, you know how to do reimbursements, you know, all the different things that you learn in the class. I would be highlighting those in bullet points, okay? How about looking online? What are the job descriptions saying for the job that you're going for? What are the job descriptions that you're seeing online? They'll say they want this, they want that, they want this, they want that. If you're qualified, send a resume, right? Go through those, see a bunch of them, even if they're not local, but see what all these different ones are looking for. And do you see a common theme? And if you see the common theme, then you want to add that to your resume. That makes sense. Okay? Trustworthy, you know, ability to maintain confidentiality, you know, because your HIPAA compliance stuff. You know, that you're punctual, that your ability to work independently, you know, those kind of things. So those are kind of the key things. Any computer experience that you have should be added to this as well. So do you understand what I mean by the bullet points? And do you see why you would add that if you were a person who never had anything administrative, never been? I get a lot of people who've lost their jobs. Their industry has gone to the wayside. Northern Maine is a perfect example of that with the mills closing down. Well, what's the one thing they have left there? Medical, right? So these people are going from working with their hands in a factory type, you know, position to doing computer and administrative. Well, shoot. When I see their resume, I see their name, I see, what are they trying to do for a job, and then I see all these skills of what I'm looking for as an employer, then I'm more likely to keep reading, right? Whereas, if you're somebody who has no experience and you go you go employment history first, and it's like factory work, factory work, factory work, you know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, well, why am I looking at this resume? I've already put your resume down. So what I want you to do when you're filling this out is think like the person that's going to hire you. You do your homework first. You look and see what what they're posting for jobs online. Okay, you can go to Indeed.com. You can go to all the monsterjobs.com. They have all the different job descriptions. You can pull up general job descriptions for each thing. I'm telling you, Google has everything, right? So that's what your skills should look like. The next one is your education. So again, those of you who have no background in anything administrative or anything medical, you may want to do education before you do employment. If you have some of those things, it's okay to do employment first, okay, at that point, after skills or qualifications, whatever you want to label it. So your education should look like this. First of all, I want you to format your education and your plan. And you can tell I've been transcribing today. Education and your employment history, the same format. So what does that mean? A typical format would look like this. It's kind of indented. Remember, all your headers should be caps or bold. It indicates what section I'm in. Okay? And then underneath education, and I'm just picking education first, you would put the name of the school that you went to. Okay? You might, before it, put a little section, like there might be a little space in between, and you might put the years that you went, and then the name of the school that you went to. So for you guys, the first thing on the list should be Academy of Medical Professions. It's not the adult education center that you went to. That's not it. It's a separate certificate from our school that you're getting. You just attended classes that are at this location. Okay? So Academy of Medical Professions, and then underneath it would be the what you went to school for. So if you're going to school for a medical front office, it would say that, and I like to see that in bold. I just think it should be highlighted. What about billing and coding? Again, if it's bold, it's being highlighted for the person who's visually seeing that resume. So billing and coding in bold. You would want to make note of that you got a terminology certificate as well. So you'd write billing and coding certificate awarded. Medical terminology and anatomy certificate awarded. Okay? So you want to make sure that I would put those in bold. So you do the most recent to the earliest. So you go all the way back down to your high school diploma. And you don't need to write anything more than that in there. So if you went to a university and you took a bunch of classes towards certain degrees, it's okay to kind of say that you did certain classes, or you went to school for 2 years or whatever, and that you didn't finish. It's fine. It just shows that you made the effort and you have some qualifications at least from that school. So you want to do the format the same all the way through. So do a little space in between each location that you went, each place that you went, okay? All right, so then the other thing that you want to highlight there is that if you're going on to your national certifications under our education, you'll also want to put that you have those national certifications. And it's okay to do one of two things. You can either put it under our header, or you can put it the very first thing. For some of you that are doing the medical office specialist, the front office program, it would be NHA certification, and it would be the letters that you're going to get, the CEHRS, I won't say them now, but you'll put your 2 titles there, and then you do Academy of Medical Professions, and then you got your certificate from us. You can do it that way, okay? Or you can just put it under our title, and then you can put, where you put medical terminology certificate awarded, or, for CMAA course certificate awarded, you could add the national certifications you got. Also, those of you who are going on to national certifications, transcriptionists don't do that because we just don't need it. Those of us who have a national title, when you sit for that, you need to update your resume and put your comma CPC after your title. Or if you did the CMAA, it'd be the CMAA, comma, CEHRS. So make sure those titles are up there as well. So under education, you go all the way down to high school diploma, and then you go to employment. So how your employment should look, it should be the same way. It should be formatted the same way. So what it is it's going to be the most recent to the earliest. And usually you don't need to go more than 10 years. But that can depend on you. For instance, if you've been at one place for 15 years, well, you may want to add a little bit more than that, to that, and that's okay. But I mean, it looks good when you've been someplace for a long period of time, don't you think? So for those of you that happens to, don't worry about, if you have a lot more, don't go back beyond 10 years, okay? So you format it the same way. What you would do is you'd have the name of the company. I usually like to see the company in caps, draws attention to the name of the place that you worked, and then you put the years right after it. Usually a nice tab or two to the side, almost on the right margin, the years that you were employed there. Underneath it, directly underneath it, would be in bold your job title. So for somebody that had maybe you worked at Hannaford and you were a deli for 5 years, but then you were working somewhere else for another 5 years, it's okay to break that up into kind of like subheaders in the same place that you worked. Okay, so you ended up assistant manager, da 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 da. Then another blank line underneath it, kind of still indented. It would be bold title, the new title that you had there, and how many years you were there as that title. And then, you know what I mean, to keep going down like that. So if you've been at one place but you've held many different positions, it's okay to elaborate like that. Okay? So different jobs that you've had, you would put another space in between each job. Caps the name of the place you work, bold face the job title. Underneath each job title, you should have kind of bullet points, if you will. It doesn't have to be complete sentences, it can be set off by commas. Put the skills that you did, that you used in that job, and when you're doing that little section, it should be just a little blurb, a little paragraph of the skills that you used in that job. I want you to be thinking in terms of, what job am I trying to obtain right now? With this resume, I'm looking at this resume, I'm trying to obtain this position, but I did this work for this company. What skills did I use in that company that can be transferred to the skills that I will need and used, skills that I will use in the upcoming job that I'm going for? Does that make sense? So in other words, I usually have a good example. I'm brain dead today for some reason, but a bartender, I mix drinks. Well, big deal. We know what bartenders do, first of all, and mixing drinks has nothing to do with what you're going to be doing for, a medical front office thing. But being able to multitask, being able to, count money efficiently, effectively, just different things that you would do in that job that would be transferable to the position you're going into. Is that coming clear as to what I'm looking for? I mean, I want to make sure that you're not putting these,
In that case, would you go like, she was saying 15 years, I was at a job 15 years, job before that was both college and office.
Yeah.
I mean, would you put that in?
Oh, yeah.
Though it's 10 to 15 years?
Absolutely. That's a great example. So she's talking about a job that did not pertain to medical, okay? She was in a different field altogether, and was there for a long period of time, okay? But she's saying, but before that, 15 years prior, I was at an administrative job, at a major college that everyone knows. That, I absolutely would add that. Absolutely would add that. Even though it goes back beyond, that's where her question comes in, is I was talking about 10 years. So she's concerned about, I'm going back beyond that. That's absolutely fine, because it shows that you had those skills, and that you used them, and that you were hired in a position like that. So, yeah. So that's, basically it in a nutshell. The things that I look for, no typographical errors. That's the biggest thing, okay? So can you please proofread your resume before you send it to me? I think people think I'm going to proofread the resume form. And I don't like to see that, because it tells me something about you as well when you're sending me your resume. You have to remember that I'm going to be a reference for you. Quite frankly, I will be. And my integrity means something to me. I want to make sure that I'm positively, expressing what kind of a person you are. And I mean, I won't deny I do give you accolades like, you wouldn't believe, no matter how well I know you outside of school or in class, and we chit chat before, and I feel like I know you. Half of my best friends came from my programs anyway. But my point is, I still want to be able to positively reflect your skills. Okay, so if you hand me in a resume that has nothing to do with what we just did in this class, and it tells me that you don't follow directions, and it tells me that you really don't care. So it tells me that you're probably not going to care in your position either, which is going to reflect poorly on our school. That makes sense. Take your time with it. You've got those of you who are going through school in their 20 weeks or whatever, and you're doing it all together. Well, obviously, it's due in a few weeks. When you get done your resume, you get done your assignment checkout sheet, you send it in, you've done our program officially. Okay, and I send you a certificate. That's kind of how it goes down. Those of you who are going on to take your next set of classes after this, it really isn't due until you graduate. I don't need your assignment checkoff sheets or your resumes until you're ready to move on. And quite frankly, it's probably better to wait until the very end anyway, because you're not ready to move on to that next step, that next phase anyway. And the stuff you learn in the next segment are going to be probably usable on your resume. You'll think of things that, oh my gosh. And I think if you start it now, though, I think it gets you kind of excited about what you're going to be doing. Because you're kind of halfway through now, but you know how you see the light, but it's really dim right now, like you're still not there, like you're still pedaling, like, oh my God, I might die in this process. So I really want to make sure that if you start it, it gives you a kind of a jumping off point. It's kind of there, and now you got to fill in the blanks. Like that skills section, you can leave that for when you're going through the next segment of the class and start filling it in as you're going through. Okay? So, I would like to see you working on it in the next few weeks. But as far as handing it in to me, I don't think that you're quite ready unless, again, you're graduating. Is that fair? Okay. So do you have any questions based on what I talked about tonight?
Yes.
Huh? You do?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Cover letter.
Okay.
I've never really had to do one except for attention, blah, 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 and then send it in with a fax.
It really can be short and sweet. I personally, again, I get resumes all the time, and obviously cover letters all the time. I prefer the short and sweet, but that's just how I operate as well. So I will tell you that as long as it's set up properly, again, your letterhead, which would be your name and return address and all of that, very similar to your top of your resume. It should look the same thing, except it should be centered on the top of your page. The inside, and everything's left justified these days, you guys. We don't do, if you're old school like I was, we grew up with indenting the first line of the paragraph. We don't do that anymore. Modify block, okay? It's all full block now, so it's all left justified. So, start on the left-hand side of your page. It'll be, the current date that you're sending it in. Address it to whoever you're sending it to. And then regarding, I think it's always nice to have there that, potential employment or maybe the job that you're looking for or that you saw advertised might be a good thing to fill in there. And just short, a paragraph or two of a summarization of how we got where we are right now. In other words, why am I seeking employment from you? Or why am I looking at your place? Now, this is where those skills come into place. Remember when I told you when you're looking at to do the skills section and fill that all in? I think it's really smart to see what are they advertising for qualifications. And this is a great way to kind of boost it again, to say it a second time. I have all the qualifications you're looking for. I'm looking for this position. This is the kind of job that I want to do the rest of my career. I'd like it to be in one place. I don't like seeing the growth opportunity. I'll tell you why. Some of these places, there are no growth opportunities. You just limited yourself, right? So I think just saying that, you want to work at a place and you want long-term, it's a long-term commitment. You're not there for just a short period of time. And cut into the chase about the certain things that you think are important qualifications that you have that they should consider. This is a great place to plug our school, to say that, not necessarily plug our school, so to speak, but more that, the education that you got that was so driven towards the the goals that you had in mind of the type of education. You work closely with a national certification. You're nationally certified. And there's things that you can just kind of highlight, and how eager you are to put your skills to use. So I think it can be short. Another.
I'm the best, and you want me.
That's right. Hey, listen, I won't let you down. I won't make you look bad. I mean, you could use better English than that, but I will not make you look bad. The other thing that I would tell you is you can go on to, again, Google. You can tell I use it like it's on my phone screen. You could Google it, that like sample cover letters you can type up, and you'll get a bunch of samples, and that will give you some ideas of things you can say as well. Okay. And I'm happy to look at those as well. So if you want me to take a peek at your cover letter when you send your resume, I'll do that for you as well. Okay.
I've got 2 more questions.
Yeah, that's all right. No, you only get one in a class. I mean, come on. Right? No.
Okay, next week I want to talk about references.
References.
Yeah, I've been in one job for 15 years. I don't know what that means other than like letters of recommendation from past
You
work.
don't need letters of recommendation. References would mean like your supervisors that you have had. If you can name 3 supervisors that you've had, or people that are above you, or maybe that are in managerial positions like yourself, because a shift leader is a type of managerial position. Somebody who is of equal caliber or higher than you. That's who you want to have as professional references. In other words, I don't want your best friend down the street. Right?
But I worked with her.
Good one. I just can't be like my friend. They know they're going to get a good recommendation. They might not know that, so who knows? But, can't be a sister or whatever. That wasn't 2 questions. That was 1. I was ready for you.
Letters of recommendation was my other one, but I don't need it now. I don't need to go past.
I mean, if you can get them, if you can get them, I think it's helpful. I always think that's a good thing, and the more the merrier. I'm a big believer in you got more, give it, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
So, anybody else? Oh, you guys are an easy group. Must be the heat. All tired. All right, so listen, so you have some work to do this week, though, because I really want you to start this process. Because I think you'll start to get excited about what you're doing. So I think it'll be a source of motivation for you. So if you could just start on it, and then next week I want you to come in based on, the experience that you have this week. I want to know if you have any other questions, and we can go over them, and you can watch the video when you get back from vacation. And if you don't, that's okay. But again, I always open myself up to one-on-one work as well. But I like you to do a little bit of it on your own. You need to learn to be self-sufficient. You need to learn to work independently. That's the way we teach things. It always bothers me when I have these students that complain or whatever, especially the counselors. Oh, there's no support. Well, you know why? Because we make you do the work. And you need to, because the jobs you guys are going into, you got to do the work. When you get really stuck and you can't find the answers at that point, that's when you come to us. And that's what we expect, That makes sense? So I want you to do the work, and then I'll tweak it with you. That's what I want to do. I want to fine-tune your resume with you. Okay? All right, great.